Thank you for listening to Depictions Media Radio. Welcome back to the show, and today we have a fellow podcaster, and her name is Sara Troy. She started the Art of Positive Living in 2001 and has been teaching personal self-identity and soul development for over 18 years using tools from 44 years of accumulated knowledge. Sara is also a spiritual counselor by God's design. That is amazing stuff. I love the God's design thing because so many times I think we forget that it was God's design to put us here.
Oh yeah, and for a purpose too.
So my first question to you is, why do you podcast?
Well, most certainly it has become my calling. As a spiritual counselor for many lifetimes, it was always the permission to have the voice to explore what we're here for. And it has been stifled for so long because of other doctrines dictating how things should be. And I love the freedom of podcasting, where a soul can truly share who they are from the inside out. Their journey, it doesn't matter how extraordinary it is or how unordinary it is, that they can really express themselves without fear of persecution or judgment and share who they really are, because it gives permission for other people to embrace what's unusual about themselves or what they're going through, and to understand they're not alone. But it also broadens our whole perspective, an understanding that we are so much more than our limitations that have been imposed upon us. So we learn so much from these ordinary people doing extraordinary things. And I think it's extremely illuminating and liberating. Yeah.
One of the things that we like to promote is for people to live that extraordinary life and do those things and follow those callings that would lead us to that, right?
Most certainly.
Very important. Because I know some of your shows mimic some of ours here at Depictions, in the message of love and things like that. So, what are some?
The baseline.
What's that?
The baseline.
The baseline.
Love.
Yes,
Self-love.
Yes, that is true love, right? Okay, there we have it. There's a question. How do you define love, and how do you define it so that you can use it to broaden your message and get your message to people?
Well, here at selfdiscoverymedia.com, it is about our own self-discovery. What is our beautiful instrument that we can bring to the orchestra of life? In our discovery of self and learning to love ourselves, all our beautiful imperfections that make us so unique, the instrument that we are, which is our calling and our purpose in life. When we step into that and we become of service to one another, I believe we've stepped into love. But before we go and give love to other people, we need to learn to give it to ourselves and to fortify ourselves and be that beautiful divine energy we are meant to be. And in that beautiful discovery of our purpose, of our instrument, of our calling, and the gift that it is to mankind, that service that we're bringing to one another, I think that is what we're here for. And that loving vibration resonates in such a beautiful frequency that it begets other love. It feeds and fortifies and nurtures other people to step into love. And I think we'll be so much more creative and also so much kinder and caring to one another that we really will see the benefits of love as a positive frequency and why we need it so much. But it first has to start with us and our own instrument. And that, I think, is the journey of life, is discovering that self-love, our purpose, and what we bring to the table of life.
Okay, so we found our self-love. Mm-hmm. And I like how you're using the term frequency, because I'm assuming the frequency in this case means a vibration. Yes,
absolutely.
And
measurable frequency of vibration of at least 580 hertz.
Very good. Okay, I just learned something there. 580 hertz. I'm going to store that away.
580 hertz, yes. Yeah. Because then you're actually resonating on a positive vibration that changes the frequency of our chemistry and our water and our entire cell structure. And it allows us to resonate up on a more positive vibration where we actually see love and possibilities and not doom and gloom and despair.
Definitely need to put that frequency level into the memory. That is awesome stuff. One of the things I love about life is learning that one new thing that day.
Yeah. Yes. And we get to do that podcasting, that's for sure.
Yeah. Exactly. We get to learn that one new thing all the time. What is one of your greatest gifts to help people finding that self-love?
Oh, gosh. I think it's because I see people. I see what's within them. A lot of people are living the expectation of life, the dictation of life. You should be, you will be, you must be. But I see inside of people what their light is. And I can see the path that lies before them, the possibilities of who they can become. And in my counseling, it is showing them how to discover that for themselves. Again, they've got to walk it. They've got to pick that up and want to make that self-discovery of stepping into their own beautiful purpose. But I do have the gift of being able to see people from the inside out. And many people don't like to be seen because they like living the facade. But for those that are truly looking for the truth of self, are willing to see from a different eye point, then those are the people I like to help. But also the people that I get to interview, those that get to see themselves from the inside out.
Yeah. Because I interview a lot of coaches and a lot of people, a lot of counselors and alike, and one of the things that there's like catchphrases and catch terms like being authentic and being your true self and all those sort of things. But when you get down to it, it's like, how do you define that? How does a person define that for themselves? What is true for them? What's authentic for them versus just simply digging themselves into like another rut because they're following another something niche. Else. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's when you can stop pulling the wool over your own eyes. When you can, I do an awful lot of mirror therapy. I want you to have a conversation in the mirror. Let your eyeballs come back at you. Do you really believe what you just said or how you feel? And that inner honesty, not persecution, not judgment, but inner honesty. You could have taken a different path. That kind of thinking is not serving you. But I think it's also when you connect to your heart, your soul, and your spirit and your mind as one, in that honest truth, when you've ignited your heart, your soul, and spirit's intellect along with the mind, and you are as one, that's when I truly think you have found your authenticity, because you are no longer doing, you have become. You are being.
That sounds really philosophical.
Yes.
it sounds like an arduous process. In the end,
It depends.
It's worth it, though, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, gosh, yes. I mean, I'm sure you too, for everybody that you've interviewed that's had a struggle, they'll say, I'll do it again because who I am today is who I'm truly meant to be. And who goes through life without some form of struggle? And, the struggle isn't here to persecute us, and we don't have to suffer in life. We're here to learn. Mm-hmm. And just like a child who is learning to walk, are going to land on their backside more times than not before they find that stability and able to take those steps forward.
Yeah.
Einstein with the light bulb. What if he gave up at 998? It's keep persisting, but be in tune with that inner voice as your guidance, and don't be guided by the expectations of the mind.
That's also very true. When you know that it's there, keep going till you get it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And be willing to be flexible and bend. Don't be rigid.
Well, sometimes God puts a mountain in front of us.
Yes.
We gotta figure out. Okay, I'm not that. It's like okay. I'm an ex-rock climber and everything, but there was limitations to heights that I could actually go. It's like, okay, you know what? I can't climb that high, but can I find a way around it? Right? Mm-hmm. Or for those, through it.
Yes. The old laser beam, yeah. But I mean, it's also going at, well, this is like I learned when I was in boarding school. We used to go for walks on the moors. And it would just be like fields after fields and moors. And it would be, oh my God, that's so far. But I had a teacher say, let's just walk to that tree. Oh, how about let's go over to that now? Now let's go over to that. And the next thing you know, you've walked the whole thing. And none of it felt daunting because you set smaller destinations. I'm just going to go over here. Oh, I did that. I can go over here now. And I think if we do that, we don't put so much pressure on ourselves. Just take the first few steps. Just climb so far up the mountain. If you feel more inclined, you can try and go a little higher. But don't go, I've got to get to the top, and then immediately start feeling failure because you think you can't. Just a few steps at a time and see where it leads you.
Yeah, that is very true. Every journey has one thing in common: the very first step.
Yes. But don't you find that that's, for some people, that's the hardest step to take? So many people are derived and rigid with fear. And it's like, but tell me the manual. Where am I meant to go? What am I meant to do? I need the map. No, you don't. You need the trust in yourself. The trust that the path will show you your way. The trust that taking those first few steps, you will discover what you need to know along the way. You don't need to know everything in order to take those steps.
Right. Isn't it true that sometimes you just need a calling to take the first one?
Or sometimes the steps start to find the calling, and sometimes the calling is what's going to lead you on that path.
Yeah.
I mean, when I started podcasting, it was not something I thought that was going to lead me to my own network and to the books and to everything else that we're branching out on. Me doing videos or editing or doing anything on the computer. Ha ha ha. And here I am, 6 years later, 7 years hosting, and I've got a buzzing network, and I just took the one step at a time, and it led me here.
Yeah. So how did you? Because we all have setbacks in order to move forward. So how did you handle a setback so that you could push forward again?
Well, apart from a few swear words here and there.
From you?
From innocent me. You get your frustrations. Where you think, I just don't understand. I'm giving what I think the people want, and then you find that, maybe it's not that audience. And I think, again, it's just like, I know I've got to get to the other side of the mountain. Mm-hmm. My valley is there. I don't know what is in the valley, but I just know that's where I'm being compelled to go. But it's what I gather and what I seed along the way, because I look at each show as being a seeding ready for others to water, for others to grow in that wisdom, that knowledge that they need for picking along the way. So I think frustration is always going to be there, kind of understanding, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing it in the right way? But that's where that flexibility comes in. Be willing to change directions. I've changed the name of my network 3 times because the names weren't reflecting where we were. And it's being willing to grow and listen to what people want from you and what you can deliver. So with everything that you really enjoy doing, there's always going to be something you don't enjoy doing, and just ride it.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally understand the changing of the names and changing of the directions, because this is, I think we're up to our 3rd or 4th incarnation trying to figure out how do we reach the people that we're supposed to reach. So
Exactly. And you learn along the way. I mean, imagine if every business said, I'm just going to go in that straight line. I don't care what my customers want. I don't care this. I don't care that. I just want to get there. Well, they're not going to survive. So this is a business, whether you started off as a hobby or not, or a business, you're wanting it to be a business, and you're going to learn as you go. And I think collaborating, and speaking to other people and learning from others that have gone along the way, I get a wonderful amount of wisdom that's given to me for other people who are in either parallel businesses or whatever. But I let it sit with me, and I look at it, and then I extract from it what I know the core needs, what I really need. It doesn't mean I go carte blanche and do it their way. It means I take an ingredient from here, an ingredient from there, and create my own dish of what I need to do. And that way I know that it's true to my purpose, to my calling, and what I need to do in the parameters that I can do it in.
Sometimes I like to see purpose as a table, with ingredients and parts on it. So we take different ingredients from off that table and we put them together so that it forms our specific purpose, because it's not going to always match everybody else. There's going to be an intricacy, right? So what are some of the...
That's going back to being authentic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's going back to being true. Don't, I've had, why don't you do it like so-and-so? Because they're not called Sara. I have to do it from Sara's authenticity, from Sara's vision and conviction. And if I'm not your cup of tea, that's fine. I'm somebody strong up a coffee. I'm a preference. And I don't expect to praise everybody. But I'm going to, for those that hear my style, my words, my client, my guest's words. And if you like the way that we do it, then you will hear it. If you don't, you'll tune into someone else, and that's okay. But you've got to be authentic to who you are and stop trying to be what other people want you to be.
Well, one of the things that we tell when I actually go out and teach media classes is I tell people that you have to figure out who your audience is. It's not going to if you think you're going to please everyone, then you wind up pleasing no one, because you're just going to take a bucket of water and dump it into your message and no one gets it.
Yes. Right.
So
I'm sure you get, how many followers do you have? How many people listen to your show? Well, I have about 15 genres, so which show? Every show has its own audience. But the other thing is I say this, if one person listens and we've changed one person's life, that is the only impact I'm looking for. If we have an influence in other people's lives and they redirect and embracing themselves, hallelujah. But I don't go, I must have the 5,000 people listening. I want the people that are going to hear us, truly hear us, and that it has a positive effect on their life. That is where I'm going. Whether it's 1 or whether it's 20, whether it's 1 million, for me it's about, because that one person's life change is going to have a ripple effect.
Right. That's exactly right. We have our astronomical goal that we want to reach in number of lives. It's number of lives that we want to change, not just number of listeners. Right. And that's a big difference, isn't it?
Oh yes. I also, I've put out shows on podcasting etiquette and things like this. But when I've been interviewed a lot of times about podcasting, one of the first thing I'll say, don't look for fame or money doing this. Right? You're not going to suddenly be discovered and be famous. You're not going to get rich off it. You're doing it because you truly want to share the message. Mm-hmm. Because you've really got a message that you want to get out there. And because you really want to have that impact positively on somebody else's life. And if you're not doing it for that reason, you're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to, when I think of media, I think it is the path that the information flows to get to where it needs to be.
Yeah. Yes.
So,
yeah. I mean, I used to be called Self-Discovery Radio, and because I was a radio blog, and then I realized I've gone into books, I've gone into tutorials, I've gone into sponsorship, mm-hmm. I've gone into directory, and so really I changed it. The Self-Discovery was no-brainer, but I changed it to media, because under that media platform, we are so many more things.
Right.
And that's, again, it's that evolved. Right, mm-hmm. As you said, you're into your third, illumination of what you started off being, and that's the thing. You evolve to what else you need to expand out on, because ultimately, as a podcaster, we're serving our audience and we're serving our guests. We're here of service.
Right. That is very true. It is a point of service, and mm-hmm. I'm happy to serve, as I believe you are.
Oh yeah, definitely. I love bringing good wisdom to people. Hallelujah.
Yeah, exactly. In these messages that, like your message, this is a time when we really need it.
Mm. Yes, I think I like the Celtic runes. There's the I Ching and the Eastern prophecy, but the Celtic runes are more the European. And there's a rune stone in there called Haglas, and it's disruption. And the thing is, you have to have disruption in your life in order to clear the table, in order mm-hmm. to bring the right things on it to rebuild. And we're in a disruptive phase in the world right now. And we need to get out of that loop. But look what's happened because of it. Look at how there's a shift in people saying we're not going to tolerate that behavior anymore. The Me Too movement. Look at how many women of different ethnic groups and faiths and everything else are stepping into politics and getting into position in a very male-dominated arena. Look at how many children that have been victims of guns have now started movements that are really having a profound effect on the liberation of other kids and the safety of just being able to go to school or go anywhere else. Out of this disruption, there is always beauty that can come out of it and creativity that can come out of it. It's what we choose to feed and what we choose to water that will grow. And so if we're going to constantly harp on the misery, the pain, and everything else, instead of feeding the possibilities of what can come out of it, we're going mm-hmm. to stay there. And I don't want to stay there. And no. I'm 64 years old, and I've seen enough of that in my life. I want to see the blossoming that's going on with all that creativity and possibility into a world that I believe we can rise up to be.
Yeah. Well, I guess I'll just kind of dive into this. Because I'm sure your email box is very similar to my email box. And
busy.
Busy. But people send you things, and some of those things at times are disturbing.
Yeah.
Because someone was seriously injured under the guise of accidents are one thing. Mm-hmm. But when somebody sends you something under the guise of hatred, mm-hmm. it's that much more disturbing. And one of the things that I was talking with my wife earlier about this, it's like, so how should I, or should I all share some of those things?
I think it's always this is one of my principles on my shows, is that we can speak to what the problem is, but we have to emphasize what the solution is. And to ignore what the problem is the head in the sand. This is the problem. How did we get there? What can we do to unravel it and change the dial and send it off in a different way? So we have to address what's wrong. But at the same time, we don't sensationalize it. And we know, I'm sure you do too, I get publicists constantly. I used to get wonderful guests and material from publicists, beautiful novelists and coaches and things like this. Unfortunately, since Trump raised his head, that all I have got for the last 2 years has been, and this has happened and that has happened and this has happened. And it's like, I'm not feeding that.
Right.
I am not going there. You just, again, the volcanic eruption out of a molehill, out of a pimple. I'm not going there. I'm going to support and celebrate the people that are actually on the ground, changing people's lives one step at a time. And those are the people I'm going to get behind because they're doing something positive. So you won't get anything sensational from me, but we will talk to the problem because we're looking for the solution.
Right. Yeah. It was I think it was yesterday or the day before, whenever it happened, the tragedy happened in Sri Lanka. I immediately received this video. I'm like, okay, I don't necessarily want to share the video, but I will eventually speak about what happened and how people are overcoming it. So
yes,
yeah. Because that's ultimately the solution, right?
The ugliness is there. You have to address it. But what are we going to again empower? Are we going to empower, the violence? Or are we going to empower people rising up? Look at, what happened with 9/11. New York is an incredibly violent city. And 9/11 happened. And it became a city where everybody looked out for each other. Became a very safe city to live in as a big conglomerate city because people stood up for each other. They came back to community. Right. They came back to protecting and being that global village. Instead of me, myself, and I, and I'm all right, Jack. Instead, looking out for their neighbor, looking out for their community, being at one with each other and supporting one another. And I think it's a shame that we have tragedies that have to do that to remind us of community. But we need to get back to community.
Is that what it is? The however you want to put it. I prefer to go with God, so I'm going to say God. Is that God really saying, tapping us on the shoulder? Is like, this is what you're supposed to be that community? Is that what these little tragedies are?
I think I have a host who's a pastor and a reverend, but his show is The World According to Gus, God, Universe, and Spirit. So it really doesn't matter how you look upon God, whether it's a religion or whether it's a scientific energy or frequency, whether it's the energetic spirit that runs within you. That's your personal preference. And I think that's where we need to have it. You'll find soul people in your community where you ride that wave, but we don't impose the waves on each other. So, where I say my work is by God's design, and, my God is that universal energy.
Yes.
And it is that divine energy that raises up our frequency to a love vibration, whereas do no harm to anyone else.
Right.
Do I think that God has put the violence on this world? No. I think that is, as a spiritualist, you cannot live in the love zone, in that frequency, and condone violence. The violence is purely a human nature.
Right.
Not a divine nature.
Yeah.
Right? So when you step more into your divine presence, and I'm not talking religion, I'm talking your own connection to your own divinity, when you step into that divine energy, you will know that violence isn't the answer and you do not want to be there or to feed it. Why do we have so much violence? Is because of the disconnect to our divine presence, to ourselves, to our inner love. And we need to start plugging people back in again.
Yeah. That's all very, very good points. I like that. Because there, as we know, our world is evolving, and there's things moving around, which causes volcanic eruptions, causes earthquakes, causes storms.
Yes.
But when we look outside, like say we look through a telescope and we look at Jupiter, and we look at that hurricane that's sitting there in Jupiter, that's 10 times bigger than our own planet. It's like there's a sense of beauty there when you look at it.
Yes.
Yes.
So I mean, look at recently the black hole.
Oh yes.
And then look at the movies that have done the picture of the black hole, and you go, how did they know? We had no reference before, but it looks exactly like it. And I think that when you step into creativity, this wonderment of all these space shows and Matrix and Avatar and everything else are people that are already channeling the divine message, channeling the universal message to bring us out of our human near-fundalism and into our divine spirit. That's what I was always put here on this planet for, was to ignite the heart and the spirit and the soul in people so that they can live in harmony with their humanness. And we've got disconnected somewhere along the line. And, religion lost its message. Everything became about greed and power. And we know that doesn't work. We have to go back to the love vibration. And that starts first with self. Peace isn't out there. Peace is in us. Peace and love has to be found within us so we can bring it out collectively.
You're reminding me of I think it's a Greek proverb that the gods played a joke on us as human beings, and they placed our happiness and wisdom deep inside of us so that they could laugh at us as we chased our tails trying to find it.
Right, yes. Well, the joke is no longer funny.
Yes.
And, when people realize it is an inside job, it stop looking out there for your satisfaction and where you belong. Look within, and then bring yourself out. That's where we're at. That's when we make the connection and understanding to our purpose here.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the world would look like if we were all living our purpose?
Oh my goodness. I think it would be a divine chorus, a wonderful orchestra. I think also because we've never explored peace and given peace a chance, but we've seen snippets of it here and there, and we look at the creativity. I know that creations come out of war. Mass destruction, television came out of the war, the computer came, the first computer came out of the war necessity. Yes, there are those creators. But also when you look at peace and people feel safe enough to create, to tap into that universal divine wisdom and really explore and see where we can go. We haven't got the image at the present moment to see how far we can explore and how much we can become, because we're still riding on those coattails of fear and hate and loathing. When we decide to leave that behind and step into that creativity, I think we're going to see a different human race that is going to be extraordinary. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to throw this out there because I think that one of the sciences that is coming around from a simple piece is cosmology and study of the cosmos in general, right?
Yes.
Finding that black hole. We didn't find that black hole to turn it into a weapon. We found that black hole because we were looking for the answers of who we are.
Right. Yes. And the universe will tell us. I mean, this is, again, now, peacefully look at the instruments that have been created and look at the discoveries that we have now. Was it one telescope? No. How many telescopes from around the world had to come together to be able to be strong enough for us to see that black hole? Look what collaboration does.
Yes, exactly. And I get amazed at space because it's like a time machine too. It's like that black hole happened 55 million years ago.
Yeah.
And where was our planet 55 million years ago?
Mm.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And
it's pretty interesting
when
stuff.
you look at that and you think of how many thousands of years we've been on this planet, but we're still playing the same old tune. Isn't it time for us to grow up?
Yes. Yes.
And we're only going to do that by connecting to the cosmos, by tapping into that divine energy of the universe. The universe doesn't look at right and wrong. It just resonates on a frequency. It just resonates on a certain hertz vibration.
Yes.
There is no condemning or thising or thating. That is, again, a human judgment. It resonates on a frequency. When you open up your channels, and everybody's capable of doing this, of opening up that channel and letting some of that universal energy come in, like it can come to the planet. Like I did a wonderful show on the pyramids. And this guy in Bosnia, Sam, who discovered this Bosnian pyramid, which was one of the biggest pyramids in the world. And he debunked what pyramids were built for. And of course, there was a lot of flack for it because, oh, no, it's this, it's that. Instead of embracing, oh, my goodness, rather like Hawkins, I discovered something, then I discovered it was wrong, and I rediscovered something else. Instead of him being big enough to own that, unfortunately, the agriculture area refused to accept it. But the pyramids were placed in certain parts of the world, and each one of them strategically to beam up to the universe, to channel energy down to the earth, to be the energy we need on the earth. Why can't we do the same? We can open up our channels anytime and download the energy we need.
Yeah. There was something, since we're talking about the pyramids, the Great Pyramids in Egypt, they discovered that it was an electrical generator. That the limestone versus the flow of water, and then it's aimed so that it brings, as you said, brings more energy from another place.
Right, exactly. In fact, actually, the Russians took exact measurements and made smaller pyramids to experiment with this, and they found everything that was within that pyramid grew at a higher vibration.
Yes.
The water, after thousands of years, that they've tested the water in there and how healing it is. I mean, it's just, the trouble is, the answers have always been there. But we've allowed our own ignorance and our own ego and our own greed to get in the way of that discovery. That's got to go. It's discovery time.
Yeah. I hear this from people that can't possibly be true about ancient technology. We all know that technology was only created within the past 100 years. I was like, okay, so you're telling me that these things were only in existence in the last 100 years? Well, that's probably true. I'm like,
well, don't forget the world was flat too.
Yeah, the world was flat, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, one of the people I admire greatly is Tesla. And, talk about downloading. And the thing is, he literally opened up his channels and downloaded all this knowledge. The thing is, he had the intellect to understand what he was given. Yeah. But it was at least 100 years before its time. Right? Had we had it then, what kind of world would we be living in now? A lot more peaceful. But of course, what happened? Greed got in the way. Well, why are we going to give away free energy when we can charge people through the nose for it?
Yeah.
Right? So back to the human greed instead of to the human empowerment.
Yeah. He teamed up with Mr. Westinghouse, who created the grids that we have now.
Exactly.
And it leads into something that because you've probably seen this, where fuel versus energy, and everybody's talking about fuel because that's what a certain industry wants us to focus on.
Right.
But do we really need to burn the fuel to have the energy?
No, we don't. There are so many. I mean, see, this is the thing. I can tell you right now that we've pretty well got a hell of a lot of solutions already to what this planet needs. The amount of innovations that have come out, the amount of people I've interviewed with just simple innovations. There is so much that we can do that if we put the time and money into developing those, where it could go could be absolutely extraordinary. And, providing energy, solar panel, various other things are tapping into the earth energetically. There is so much stuff that we can do. But of course, again, going back to the power, right? Going back to the power and the greed. The last thing they want is the oil industry affected. It has been for how long now a mainstream. Now, look at our gas prices right now. We talked about this in the show we did, and how ridiculously high it is, how the domino effect of how it hurts all industries because nobody can afford to go out and spend or go anywhere. So it has a horrible effect on your community, on your spending, and on interaction. Nobody can afford to go anywhere. Short-sightedness, the inequality of what's going on. Now, I can't remember the name of the people, a couple of guys that has been closing down coal mines throughout America. And they did it without any government help. They did it as philanthropists. And every single one of those coal mines, they re-educated people in the industry to go into computer, into solar, into other things. Instead of, a lot of people think, well, that's it, the end of my livelihood. No. They redirected them into another livelihood, which they're grateful for because they're no longer down a hole in a mine risking their lives,
right,
or shortening their lives, and that they make more money and they have more advancement. And that's the thing. If we embrace change, if we embrace it, we will actually see that we will get so much further ahead than trying to hold on to the fossil, like the fossil fuel, the fossil of the past. It explains it itself. So it all belongs in the past. So we've got to step out of that fear, and there should be more information on what the alternative is, and what we can do that serves mankind and this planet that we're all residing on here, in order to be able to survive. At the rate we're going, no, this planet's going to evict us.
Yeah. Well, some of the industries do this, including our own entertainment and media industry, because we're independent, and I'm going to draw a parallel to this in a second here, that if we were to develop a show, we tried to get it out on mass media, the thing that would probably happen is they hand us a check and they plop the show on the shelf until they can actually use it with their own copyrights.
Or never have it see the light of day.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So the oil industry did much the same thing with a lot of the solar projects. They found them, they bought them, they plopped them on a shelf where no one would ever see them ever again.
Right.
They're in some archive somewhere.
Yes.
Because
and there's a lot of innovation in archives, and those archives need to be opened up. Absolutely.
Yeah. Because we, from what I understand, we probably could have gotten away from the internal combustion engine coming out of maybe the 1930s, 1940s.
Yes, exactly. And in actual fact, I was part of... I invested in someone. I had no idea how the technology worked. I didn't need to know that. All I knew is that he needed to build it. And he built an electric motor that could also be a generator, but discovered its quantum physics, its quantum abilities as a generator of energy. And unfortunately, we were at the 2008 time where everything was crashing. The people who were going to invest in this crashed, and eventually it became one of those chapters in life I don't want to really remember. The motor got shelved, but instead he's taken the principles of what he learned from the motor and has actually put it into another program that now he's working with Microsoft as artificial intelligence. So it's sometimes what you think is one thing will become something else, which never would have become had the motor gone through. Had the motor gone through, it would have been an answer to the combustion engine as well. It would have been a replacement. Yeah. But of course, that was too threatening, right? So, but look at what's happened in the changes of what we're demanding. We've got to understand, stop giving your power away. Stop giving it to the politicians, stop giving it to the corporations, stop giving it to the oil companies. Your voice matters. Speak up. Step up.
Right.
Make the change. You are the change we seek. So we've got to sit back and moaning about it and step up and do something about it. And like you and I are doing it in the way of bringing you that education and these people that have the knowledge that can change. Did a whole show series, Let's Get Synced. And that show was interviewing people throughout Europe and around the world on the emotional climate around climate change. Until we change the emotional climate, we're not going to change our climate practices. And that's where we're at right now, right? We're educating people as to what they can do, what the empowerment is within them.
Yeah. So I'm going to get to, because we're going to start to run out of time, and I'm going to get to one of my favorite questions, and then we'll get to how people can actually find you. What would the perfect world look like to Sara Troy?
Oh my goodness. I think when everybody stepped into their own empowerment, when people have stepped into their own purpose and love who they are, doing what they're doing, love being who they are, being that person that is contributing to the world. When I see that people are no longer in delusionment, no longer in disconnect, but really do feel a part of that global community, where they really feel their voice is heard, that they really are participators. That is really where my harmony is. That's what I love to see. I love to see people become the light they were meant to be. So that is my illumination. So whether it happens in my lifetime or not, I haven't got that many years left. I hope to see a lot more of it before I go. And also my network, because it has all those voices on here. I hope that is my legacy that will keep on after I've gone, and always be that orchard of wisdom ready for the clicking for people who are needing that knowledge on their own journey of life.
Yeah. I have a wish for you. And it kind of comes from some of my native cultural background, is may many generations tell your story.
Nice. Yes, I think that is probably the truest gift you could be given. Knowing that your voice had such an impact that it will be passed on. I think that is the biggest honor you can ever have.
Yeah. So,
thank you.
What are the best ways to find you?
Okay, you can come straight to the site, selfdiscoverymedia.com. All of the shows and the genres are there under the show page. It also leads you back to our selfdiscoverycommunity.org. That is where we are going to be doing the collaborative books and raising money to support, subsidize the services from the people in the directory for people in a redirective life. And I also, for my, as you started off with the Art of Positive Living, which the coaching and everything, which I don't do that often, but I still do. You can find that under Sara Troy, SaraTroy.com. But the main hub and everything is selfdiscoverymedia.com. If you wish to be a guest, if you wish to be a host, if you wish to be part of the directory, if you wish to be part of the book collaboration, it's all there. And if you just simply want to listen to all the wonderful people who have given their time and their energy and their passion and conviction to help us, it's all right there. And you can contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com.
Awesome. It's been a real pleasure spending the day with you, because we've been together because we did interview for your show, and we did an interview for my show. And you'll be airing on April 30th.
My shows come out every Tuesday, new shows every Tuesday. And you'll be featured on the Choose Positive Living show. So when you go into selfdiscoverymedia.com, under the genres, Choose Positive Living, you will be featured there on April 30th. And of course, you don't die. For as long as the station goes, you keep going. And people will be able to find you and share your knowledge as well.
I'll be honest with you, you'll probably be shared on 3 shows of mine. Influence Club, because you're such a great podcaster.
Thank you.
and you're very influential. And the Balanced Living show, which is about teaching people to live mind, body, and spirit, because you really are doing that. And you love your life and in all of its pieces. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
It took a while to get here, folks, but now I'm here. I ain't going back. I'm only going forward, and I recommend it. The waters are great. Come on in.
There you go. Okay, well, thank you so much for today, and
Pleasure. Thank you.
and let's stay closely in touch and
Most certainly.
help each other grow.
Absolutely. That's what it's all about. Definitely.
Okay.
Thank
All
you
right.
very much, love.
All right.
I just need to know. So I wish upon that shooting star, and then I wondered where you are. Is it destiny, or is it meant to be?
This show has been produced by Depictions Media. Please contact us at depictions.media for more information.